Welcome to Canadian Innovators, the show that celebrates innovation, entrepreneurs, and the Canadian spirit. I'm Steve Foxcroft, filling in for Jocelyn Banford. Every week, we introduce a new entrepreneur or expert in their field to tell their story. Today, I'm excited to introduce our audience to Larissa Fenn, Vice President, Corporate Affairs for the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority. Larissa, thanks for coming on with us today.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Excited to hear your story, and because there's lots going on with the Port Authority.
Absolutely.
But before we get to all of that business stuff, let's learn a little bit more about yourself. Tell us where you grew up, where you went to school, maybe some of your first jobs.
Sure, yeah.
And so on.
Thank you. I was fortunate to live in towns across Ontario. My parents worked for municipal governments, and so we moved to towns big and small, London, Ontario, Kapuskasing up north. And then I have spent most of my time living in Hamilton and in Burlington. And I went to school at Queen's University, and then I did a postgraduate program at the Ivy School of Business and at Western. And I'm currently completing an executive MBA at McMaster DeGroote School of Business.
So rewind a bit to the Did you have to bounce around high schools and stuff too with your family moving?
We sort of settled. By the time I was in grade 9, we settled into Burlington. Okay. But before then, we moved sort of every 2 or 3 years, which was a bit of a bouncing, but at the same time, like an amazing way to learn about the province and to see the way, different people in Ontario that, have quite different lifestyles up north versus in Southern Ontario. So it was a really wonderful education.
I went to school in Hamilton for a while, high school at McNabb, but then M.M. Robinson in Burlington.
Oh,
Where did you go?
Assumption in Burlington.
Oh, so my buddy Clint O'Neill and all you guys over at Assumption. Yeah. And one of our family members was the principal there, Mr. Grant, back in the day too.
Amazing.
So so it's crazy. It's a small world, that's
Indeed.
For sure. Another question before we get into business. Yeah. Queens and Western you went to.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite? Did you prefer one or the other? Because they're both dynamite schools.
Yeah, absolutely. I did my undergrad at Queen's, so perhaps my heart is in Kingston. It's a lovely town to have spent 4 years, and so it was a beautiful place. But London too. I got to live in London and then to go back for school, which was fun.
And then do you still have university friends that you stay in touch with and get together with? Because I think that's very important as we, to have that.
Yeah, absolutely, I do. And, my roommates from school have sort of found their way all around the world, one in London, England, one in the Pacific Northwest in the United States, and then a few more are still around Toronto. So, yeah, it's fun to get together when we have the chance.
Awesome. So we'll talk about your role at the corporate affairs and all of that, but some viewers might not know what a Port Authority does. So what role does the Port Authority have? What's its job, basically?
Yeah, a port authority in Canada, HOPA is one of 17 port authorities in Canada, and our job is to use the multimodal industrial lands around those ports to provide space for Canadian industry to thrive and to support international trade and commerce and help Canadian industries get the raw materials they need and get their goods to market.
So you said 17? Mm-hmm. Like I can think of about 3 or 4, like the East Coast, Montreal, Hamilton and Oshawa, what you do there. We'll talk about Niagara a bit too. Yeah. But then the West Coast. So are there some smaller nooks and cranny ones? Maybe Thunder Bay?
Yeah, Thunder Bay is a great port and a really important port for moving Western grain. So there are big and small, but Vancouver, Halifax, Montreal, those would be the big ones.
Okay, so there's 17, but really the big ones do probably most of it, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So for years, you guys were just the Hamilton Port Authority. Now you're the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority. So as the name suggests, you've expanded a little bit and taken in Oshawa.
Yeah, we amalgamated with Oshawa about 5 years ago, and we have taken on some management of some industrial multimodal properties in Niagara as well. And that really speaks to what we think is an important way to view Ontario and Southern Ontario as a regional entity and a regional economy. And it makes sense to think about moving goods in and out of that economic region in an integrated way. And so integrating the marine transportation assets in Southern Ontario, we think makes a lot of sense.
I'll give you one you can answer in 5 seconds because
Okay.
we're going to break.
Yeah.
Is Niagara going to be added to the name?
That's a good question.
Have you talked about it?
We are talking about it, but it sounds like a bit of a mouthful to
Yeah.
stick Niagara in there, but we'll see what we can figure out.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll switch gears and have Larissa tell us why the Port Authority is about much more than just ships. You're watching Canadian Innovators. Stay with us.